CEO mocked her, "Fix yourself, then you'll be a manager." But the janitor revealed amazing truths. Lena sat in the corner of the conference room, her heart racing as she recalled the CEO's piercing words echoing in her mind. "Fix yourself, then you'll be a manager." It felt like a weight dropped onto her chest, suffocating her with the judgment of her appearance. Surrounded by peers who seemed to glide effortlessly through meetings, Lena felt like a ghost. The longing to break free from her family's relentless expectations loomed over her like a storm cloud. "Why can't I do better?" she whispered to herself, a constant mantra amidst the chaos of her emotions. The clattering of keyboards in the bustling office felt deafening as the day trailed on. Each click reminded her of her ambition, yet she felt vastly overshadowed by others, who smiled effortlessly and knew just the right people. The relentless pressure from her family to secure a stable job in healthcare or management only amplified her frustration. "Just try harder, Lena," they'd say. Yet here she was, hard work seemingly unnoticed, unraveling under the surface. Just as bleakness threatened to consume her completely, she found solace in George, the janitor. He had a warm smile and kind eyes that reflected a life full of stories. Over sandwiches in the break room, Lena listened. "You see, Lena," George said, his hands gentle but firm as he waved a broom, "the world sees what it wants to see, not always what is. But grit, that's what makes a person rise." His words felt like a cool breeze on a hot day, easing her anxiety and lighting a tiny spark of hope within her. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen." Now let's continue. Suddenly, a crisis struck. The software launch crashed, and panic rippled through the office. Lena's heart raced faster than ever, but there was something electrifying in the air. Drawing from the wisdom George shared, a courage ignited in her. She leaped into action, rallying her colleagues as chaos swirled around them. "We can solve this," she shouted, no longer just a shadow in the background. However, the pressure intensified as she faced the cold gaze of the CEO again. He questioned her ability, looming tall over her and exuding authority. Lena felt a bubble of determination rise within her. The pain of her upbringing, her dreams, and the heavy mask of judgment thickened the air around her. She found her voice. "You don't see me," she challenged, the tremble in her hands replaced by a steady grip of conviction that in that moment, she stood not just for herself, but for every unrecognized soul in the company. The tension crackled like an electric current. Could one voice, even hers, change the narrative? The stakes soared high, leaving Lena on the edge of a breakthrough or a setback. All she knew was that George's voice echoed back. Perhaps, just perhaps, she was more than a meek assistant. Her story was waiting to be written. Would she have the courage to pen it? The room was thick with tension, every eye fixed on Lena as silence enveloped them like a heavy blanket. Her heart thrummed in her chest, racing against the moment when she would have to face the consequences of her challenge. The CEO's steely expression didn't falter. He seemed taken aback by her audacity, yet that onslaught of disbelief only fueled her resolve. She glanced around the table, noticing some of her colleagues shift in their seats, the uncertainty etched on their faces. They had all felt the weight of expectation at some point, hadn't they? The pressure, the whispers of inadequacy. You can't just shout into the void and expect change, Lena thought, but a spark of rebellion began to flicker in her. There's no point in pretending everything's fine when we're on the brink of failure, she continued, feeling a knot in her throat tighten as she spoke each word. We need to come together, not just to fix this launch, but to support one another no matter what we wear or how we look. Something deep within her began to awaken. The CEO opened his mouth, probably to dismiss her, but before he could utter a word, George walked through the door, mop in hand. His presence filled the room with a palpable warmth that immediately softened the atmosphere. Excuse me, everyone, he interjected calmly, I heard some commotion. Is everything all right? The room turned towards him, the tension dissipating just slightly. We're discussing strategies to resolve the launch issue, Lena said, her voice steadier, encouraged by George's nurturing presence. Good, he said, nodding. Sometimes the solution is about more than technology or schedules. It's about trusting each other. You've got to believe in your team and reach deep for what you know. There was something grounding in his words, a reminder that every worker mattered no matter their title or appearance. For a brief moment, Lena felt unified with her colleagues, as if they were all on the same side, battling against a common foe. Seeing the shift in the room, the CEO's facade cracked just a bit. Maybe he didn't expect the janitor to command such respect. All right, everyone, he finally spoke, a hint of resignation in his tone. Let us brainstorm ideas. Lena felt a rush of adrenaline flood her system. She quickly jumped into action, leading a brainstorming session where ideas bounced back and forth like a game of ping-pong. That spark of daring she had felt moments earlier sparked into a flame. They began mapping out solutions, everyone's voices building in unison, filling the space with hope rather than despair. An idea was shaping up a plan to pivot their approach completely. Lena proposed they utilize social media more effectively, inviting customers to be part of the launch in a more personal way, to humanize the software. After all, it's nothing without the people who will use it. She exclaimed, her eyes shining with clarity and excitement. As the meeting wrapped up, Lena felt exhausted but exhilarated. The weight of judgment began to dissipate. She realized this was just the beginning. There would be challenges, and the judgments would still come, but she had taken the first step to carve her path. As the last of her colleagues filed out, George caught her eye and nodded. You did well today, he said, his voice a comforting balm against the harsh reality of the workplace. Thank you, George, she replied, her heart lightening. But I have a long way to go. Every journey starts with a step, Lena. Just keep going. His words resonated in her mind, planting seeds of possibility. How would she navigate her journey from here? Would her newfound resolve hold strong in the face of future challenges? The pulse of determination surged through her veins as she pondered these questions, knowing one thing for sure, she would not go back to being invisible. With that thought buzzing in her mind, she stepped out of the conference room, ready to face whatever came next. But as she walked down the hall, a small voice whispered the real question: could she confront the person she had always avoided herself? Lena felt the chill of the hallway wrap around her as she walked away from the conference room, her heart still racing from that pivotal meeting. The hum of fluorescent lights filled the air, but it felt distant now. The real noise echoed within her. As she made her way to her desk, she contemplated George's words. Every journey starts with a step. They reverberated in her mind, not just filling her with determination but igniting a flicker of anxiety. What if she stumbled? What if she failed to become the leader she envisioned? She sat down at her cluttered desk, the chaos of papers and reports reflecting her inner turmoil. Her eyes drifted toward a photo perched on the corner, a snapshot of her family, smiling and vibrant. They believed in her, found joy in her successes, and yet, a familiar doubt crept in. Would they still look at her with pride if she faltered? Her thoughts were interrupted by the sound of footsteps approaching. Samantha, her work best friend, plopped down in the chair across from her, the aura of energy she always brought filling the space. You were incredible in there, Lena. Seriously, with that idea about social media, you could change everything. Thanks, Sam, Lena said, a shy smile breaking through the worry. But I don't know if it's enough. Am I really cut out for this? What if I make things worse? Stop it. You've got fire. Today showed you can lead. Sure, there will be bumps, but you need to embrace that. You're not alone in this. Lena felt a swell of gratitude for Samantha. It was comforting to have someone rooting for her. But amid her friend's encouragement, each word became another weight piling onto her chest. If only it were that simple. As conversations bubbled around her, Lena's eyes wandered to the window. Outside, the sun dipped low on the horizon, casting a warm golden glow that felt like hope stretching its arms. Outside those walls, the world continued to turn, full of possibilities. But inside, she felt boxed in, grappling with her fears. "Hey, are you even listening to me?" Samantha's voice cut through her thoughts, pulling her back. "Yeah, sorry. I can't shake the feeling that I'm not enough." Lena's admission hung between them, raw and vulnerable. Samantha's expression softened. "We all feel like that sometimes. It's not about being perfect, it's about being real and leaning into it." Lena sighed, uncertain. Could she truly accept herself, a version of her that felt so fractured, so far from what she always imagined? Would everyone follow her if she didn't have it all together? Just then, a commotion drew their attention toward the break room. Loud laughter rang through the air, echoing with a sense of community. Curious, Lena stood up, her heart pounding with both excitement and dread. Should she join them, or remain in her bubble of doubt? "Come on. Let us see what the fuss is about," Samantha chimed, pulling her along. As they stepped into the break room, Lena's breath caught in her throat. Her colleagues were gathered around a table, sharing a pizza that had been brought in last minute. Laughter erupted as someone told a hilarious anecdote about the CEO's misunderstanding of a new policy. It felt like sunlight breaking through the clouds, lifting the heaviness in her chest in that moment, Lena could see the walls of her insecurities beginning to crack. She took a tentative step forward, joining the circle of laughter. Maybe this was a part of who she needed to be, embracing imperfection and celebrating humanity, but just as she found her stride, a familiar voice cut through, sharp as ever. "So, Lena, ready to fix yourself before thinking about fixing others?" It was the CEO, his eyes cold and mirthless as he surveyed the room. Her heart dropped. Why did it always come back to that? Could she even rise above the mocking? A mix of anger and determination bubbled within her. What if she turned his words around? What if she confronted him instead? As the laughter faded into an uncomfortable hush, Lena felt the stirrings of resolve washing over her again. She could feel her pulse racing, not from fear, but from the power of possibility. What would she say? Would she finally stand up to him and show that she was more than just a target for his judgment? As she gathered her courage, the lingering questions pushed through her mind like a tidal wave. Would she show him her strength, or risk something that could shatter her confidence? With her heart pounding in her ears, she prepared to take that leap into the unknown. Lena took a deep breath, her heart hammering in her chest. The comment hung in the air like a heavy weight, threatening to crush her spirit. She could feel the eyes of her colleagues on her, some curious, others sympathetic. But there was no way to look back now. She was standing at a precipice, ready to leap. Whether it would be into despair or empowerment remained to be seen. "What did you say?" she finally managed to utter, her voice surprisingly steady. The CEO smirked, clearly enjoying the attention. "I said, you need to fix yourself before thinking about managing others. Right now, you need polish, Lena." Anger flared up inside her, hot and electric. How dare he? She had spent years honing her skills and dumping her heart into her work. Did he really believe she was that easy to dismiss? She took another step forward, the chatter around her melting into a murmur, each sound echoing the urgency growing within her. "I don't need to be perfect to make a difference," Lena replied, her voice stronger this time. "Nobody in this room is perfect, including you." The room fell silent, a shocked gasp rippling through her colleagues. Lena's pulse raced as she pushed against her own fear, emboldened by the brewing storm of her emotions. This was her moment to embrace the uncertainties, to rattle the cage of insecurity that had kept her quiet for so long. "What's so funny?" she asked, gesturing toward the gathered crowd. "You all seem to have found a shared connection in laughter. Why should I be any different? We all have our flaws, yet we're still here, trying to do our best every day." The CEO's expression shifted from amusement to irritation, his brow furrowing. Your role is to lead, he said, annoyance creeping into his tone. You have to show strength. You're right, she replied, her confidence growing, fueled by the solidarity she sensed in the room. But strength isn't masking our flaws or acting like we don't falter. Strength is admitting our imperfections and still trying. Laughter began to trickle back, a hesitant smile creeping onto some faces, including Samantha's. The atmosphere shifted, the energy warmed by a sense of collective hope. Lena could sense a shift in the tide, her colleagues were rallying around her, sharing a moment of vulnerability that resonated deep within them. Don't we thrive in our imperfections? Lena continued, her heart still racing. Isn't it about learning, growing, and lifting each other up? The CEO, caught off guard, cleared his throat, but the sound of camaraderie lingered in the air. Lena felt herself gleaming with possibility, her heart buoyed by the support surrounding her. The truth she had long repressed began to shine as fiercely as the setting sun outside. Just then, a soft voice spoke up from the back. She's right. Even if we're at different levels, we're all part of this team. It was Barry, the janitor, standing quietly beside the doorway, a clipboard tucked under one arm. His eyes twinkled with wisdom. We all have struggles. But, look at this community right here, it's what makes us stronger. The room erupted in applause, and Lena couldn't help but grin, exhilaration flooding through her veins. For the first time, she felt not just her uncertain footsteps, but a compass directing her path, a shared journey of acceptance and growth. Could this be the moment she finally reclaimed her power? As the enthusiasm enveloped her, a thought occurred: what would happen next? Would the reality of sharing vulnerabilities push them toward real changes in their workplace? With her heart racing still, Lena sought the gazes around her, reading surprise and admiration. She felt ready to embrace this unfolding journey, no longer just a target of mockery but a leader in her own right. But before she could bask in her newfound courage, an unsettling question drummed in her mind. What would she do if that support was tested? The questions loomed as a new challenge beckoned, bridging the gap between triumph and uncertainty. What lay ahead in this fragile dance of growth and discovery? The applause faded, but the energy crackled in the air like electricity. Lena stood at the front, heart pounding, a mixture of disbelief and excitement coursing through her. It felt surreal, like stepping off one world and into another where she held the reins. She looked into the faces surrounding her, some familiar, some not. Samantha gave her a thumbs up, a sparkle of admiration in her eyes. Barry's nod of encouragement made her smile. There was something undeniably powerful about that moment, it was as if their collective strength ignited a fire within her. But beneath that euphoria, a whisper of doubt crept back in. Standing in front of her colleagues, she couldn't ignore the nagging question: what if they expected too much? What if she failed to lead them? She had taken the first step into vulnerability, but that path wasn't without its thorns. All right everyone, let's take a seat, the CEO said, though the slight tremble in his voice gave away his discomfort. The audience complied, but they were no longer just a passive crowd waiting for orders. They leaned in, eager, ready to listen. Lena felt the shift, a strengthening tide of hope and respect washing over the room. If we're going to move forward from this day, let us start by creating an environment where we lift each other up, she urged, her heart now steadying. A place where vulnerability is seen as a strength, not a weakness. A murmur of agreement spread through the crowd, their energy palpable. She glanced at the CEO, who seemed unnerved but trapped, caught in the momentum of the moment. She couldn't help but relish in the shift of balance, as if the scales had finally tipped in her favor. Maybe we can have idea-sharing sessions, or even a mentorship program. Lena suggested, letting her thoughts spill out freely. We can use our collective experiences to support one another instead of tearing each other down. The more we embrace our imperfections, the stronger we'll become. Applause erupted once more, immediate and genuine. She felt invincible, buoyed by the shared enthusiasm of her colleagues. They were ready to walk this path with her, and she couldn't help but smile brighter. Then, out of the blue, someone shouted from the back. "What do we do about the old ways?" It was Tony from marketing, his brow furrowed, a hint of worry in his voice. A heavy silence fell, silence that thundered against the walls, stifling the warmth they had just created. It was a valid concern. What about the ingrained attitudes? The reluctance to break from tradition? Lena felt the weight of his question, but she also sensed a flicker of determination within her. "Change is daunting, but necessary," she finally replied. "We can start small, fostering openness, encouraging feedback. Let us change the tone of our conversations, one at a time. It begins with us." With each word, she saw heads nodding, felt a wave of energy pulsing through the group. She could sense the shift begin to take root, rigid expectations were breaking down, cracks appearing in old legacies that dealt in judgment and perfection. The CEO frowned, a scowl stitching across his face. "You're treading into dangerous waters, Lena. This isn't how things are done." "Maybe it's time for change," she countered, her voice rising above the tension. "Sometimes you have to shake things up to find out what truly matters." Was courage contagious? She was beginning to think it was. "Let us be the spark that ignites that change," she urged, looking around the room, seeking support from familiar faces. Lena clutched her heart, ready for whatever came next but not ready to yield. Across the room, Barry raised his clipboard. "I think it's worth a shot," he said simply. And with that, the atmosphere shifted once more. The crowd erupted into cheers, a wave of sound washing over her. For the first time, she felt like she was leading not just by title, but by truly connecting, but even in that joyous moment, Lena braced herself. There would be pushback. There always was in the realms of transformation. Would she have the stamina to fight for this new vision? As the applause died down, anticipation hung in the air, at once shimmering with possibilities and laden with uncertainty. Would they be ready for the challenges ahead, or would fear drag them back into silence? In that charged moment, Lena felt her own resolve harden. She had sparked the flame, now, she had to fan it into a roaring fire that could melt away the doubts that lurked in the shadows. As everybody settled, Lena took a deep breath, steeling herself for the storm ahead. What if this was just the beginning? What if they found their voices only to discover they'd awakened something far greater than they anticipated? Lena adjusted her stance, taking in the energy in the room. The applause had waned, and the atmosphere shifted from jubilation to a nervous anticipation. She could feel the eyes of her colleagues on her, judging, waiting. The reality of what she had just proposed hit her like a cold splash of water. Would they really rise to the occasion, or simply retreat into their old ways? A gripping silence followed her last words, the kind that hung thick in the air, almost suffocating. Anxiously, she looked around, searching for signs of hope. Barry was still giving her a reassuring nod, but others seemed apprehensive, glancing at each other as if seeking permission to follow her lead. "Lena!" Tony's voice rang out again, cutting through the tension. "It sounds great and all, but how do you handle people who just want to keep things under wraps? You know, the ones who thrive on hierarchy?" His question launched a murmur through the audience. It was a poignant reminder of the challenges ahead. Lena felt a flush of heat creep up her neck. There was no sugarcoating it, change was not easy, especially in a workplace that had thrived on strict protocols for so long. But she couldn't allow fear to tether her to the past. "We do it together," she said firmly, her voice resonating with conviction. "There will always be those resistant to change. But it's our collective responsibility to encourage one another. If we create a safe space for dialogue, we can dismantle the barriers." The room exhaled collectively, and in that moment, Lena realized the importance of connecting their aspirations. If they were to move forward, they needed to accept their individual roles in the transformation. She could feel the flicker of hope reigniting within her. However, not everyone appeared convinced. The CEO shifted uncomfortably in his seat, the corners of his mouth tightened in a frown. I'm not sure how much you've considered these ideas, Lena. There's a reason why we've been successful so far. People like their structure. Or they're afraid of change, Lena interjected softly but firmly. The room stilled. A few gasps followed, and even Barry seemed momentarily taken aback. What do you mean? Came a voice, Amanda, from finance, her brows furrowed with curiosity. Lena seized the moment. What if we embraced change through collaboration instead of competition? Maybe our successes are built on the backs of those who fear losing their authority. But strength doesn't come from hierarchy, it grows from mutual support. A light of realization flickered in some eyes, but Lena could sense there was still resistance. She took a step back, allowing space for thought. The magnitude of what she was proposing hit her again. This was more than just workplace changes, it was about redefining identities forged in old molds. The quiet buzz of uncertainty returned. Lena felt a rush of warmth fill her heart, emboldening her voice further. Instead of dismantling, let us build together. What if we could openly share our fears and ambitions? What if we encouraged vulnerability, rather than stigmatizing it? A rustle spread through the crowd. Someone in the back whispered, "What if we fail?" Lena's gut tightened at the thought. What if they did? But hadn't she just encouraged everyone to embrace imperfection? She pushed through the fear, reminding herself that every journey has bumps. Well, she replied, what if we embrace those failures too? They're proof we're trying. It was a simple, yet profound statement, and for a moment, Lena sensed the building momentum. A few people began to nod, tentative but hopeful. I like that, Barry chimed in again, his voice rising above the growing buzz. Failing together means we're learning together. No one is alone in this. The crowd erupted again, their voices rising like a tide. Lena's heart swelled. She felt the walls melting away, replaced with an open field of possibilities. Yet, even as she reveled in the moment, a part of her hesitated. Would everyone truly feel that way when the hard work began? As the discussion sparked around her, Lena knew they had just taken a small step. But she could barely shake the feeling that this was just the calm before the storm. What awaited them next would be bigger than she could ever imagine, and for the first time, she felt both terrified and excited. Would they all be willing to dive deeper, to face their fears head-on, or would the old ways bind them once more? The truth loomed ahead, and Lena's heart raced as she pondered what revelations could lay waiting just around the corner. Lena stood at the front of the room, heart pounding as the chatter filled the air like a storm. In the midst of hopeful murmurs, doubt loomed large. Faces shifted, some nodding in agreement while others remained skeptical. She could feel the weight of their expectations pressing on her shoulders, yet her purpose was clear. It wasn't just about her anymore. It was about forging a new narrative for them all. Then, as if summoned by an unspoken thread, the janitor, Carl, entered the room. With his faded cap and blue coveralls, he was a figure most overlooked in the daily grind of corporate bustle. Yet, Lena knew he carried the wisdom of years spent observing the ebb and flow of company dynamics. His footsteps echoed in the tense silence as he made his way toward the back of the room. "Excuse me," Carl's voice rang out, steady and calm. All heads turned toward him, the unexpected authority in his presence capturing everyone's attention. "I couldn't help but overhear." Lena couldn't contain her surprise. Would he be met with ridicule, or could he offer something meaningful? "What you're talking about," he continued, "isn't new. The fear of losing control, the longing for certainty, it's been around since I started sweeping these floors." He gestured around the room with a sweeping arm, making even the walls seem to lean closer. Carl paused, and in that moment, a strange quiet settled over them. "I've seen managers come and go, but the best ones," he said, pointing a finger now aimed squarely at Lena, "are the ones who listen. Everyone wants to be seen. Everyone wants the chance to contribute." The room shifted again, this time an undercurrent of understanding weaving among them. Lena held her breath, her heart racing. Could Carl break through the resistance she had sensed all around her? Last week, he went on, one of you shared an idea in the break room. Something about a process that could save time. It didn't get taken seriously, but it could have made a real difference. Who? Tony piped up, curiosity piqued. The tension was breaking, a connection was forming. It doesn't matter who, Carl replied with a hint of warmth. What matters is that everyone has something valuable to say. Everyone has worth. When we're afraid to speak up, we lose more than just ideas. We lose ourselves. Lena felt a rush of hope surge within her. Carl was voicing the essence of what she had been trying to establish, but so much more simply. His words radiated authenticity, cutting through the layers of corporate jargon that often fogged their communication. Let us create a culture where no one feels like their voice doesn't matter, Lena interjected, her voice growing louder with conviction. What if we started valuing every opinion? Every voice? It begins with trust, and that trust can turn into something beautiful. Loud murmurs of agreement rippled through the room. Carl nodded, a satisfied smile breaking through the lines on his face. But then, the CEO's sharp voice sliced through the budding optimism. We can't run a business on ideals. This is impractical. We need to focus on results. The laughter, yet again, filled the room, this time tinged with frustration. Lena met the gaze of her colleagues, she could see doubt hanging in some eyes. Would they retreat? Would they hide behind the familiar structure that had kept them comfortable? No, she pushed back against the tide, her voice rising like a shield. What's impractical is bottling up our creativity. What's impractical is allowing fear to dictate our actions. As Lena and the CEO exchanged heated words, she sensed the swell of determination behind her. Barry whispered words of encouragement, and Amanda leaned in, the spark in her eyes ignited by Lena's conviction. Carl stood there, a silent pillar of support, offering an unwavering presence. The collective energy was shifting, they were ready to push back. But in that moment of unity, a nagging thought crept into Lena's mind. What would it take for the CEO to understand? What darkness would they have to confront to truly move forward together? The clock was ticking, and Lena could feel the weight of their journey ahead pressing heavily on her heart. Would they find the courage to embrace the challenge awaiting them? The stakes just got higher, and Lena's determination began to ignite a fire within. What truths would emerge if they lifted the veil of hierarchy and bravely walked into the unknown together? Lena's heart raced as the CEO's derisive laughter echoed in her ears. Standing in that suffocating room, she felt the collective disapproval like a wall of ice. The words "fix yourself" hovered in the air, sharp and biting. How could he belittle their hopes with such dismissal? A fire ignited within her, fueled by clarity. She could no longer stand by as fear dictated their future. I'm not going to stand by and let your cynicism drown us, she announced, her voice slicing through the haze. Reactions rippled across the room, the tension shifted as more heads turned. Their eyes were wide, some filled with admiration, others still harboring doubt. Listen, Lena continued, her breath steadied, we're not here to recreate the past or cling to old ways. We're building something new, and it starts with every single one of us being brave enough to show up and share. There was a pause, a moment where the possibility hung electric in the air. Could they really take this step together? I believe in this team, she added, glancing at Sherry, whose eyes suddenly sparkled with a hint of long-buried enthusiasm. We all have ideas and experiences that shape what we can create. This isn't just about results on paper, it's about fostering an environment where every single one of us feels valued. Distant murmurs of yes and we can began to weave through the room. Tony, who usually remained quiet, raised his hand. I've been sitting on ideas I thought no one would care about, he confessed, his voice barely above a whisper. Maybe we could work together to fix the system if you guys think it's worth it. Exactly. Lena beamed, her heart lifting with each shared sentiment. The relief was palpable, a wave washing over them. She felt Carl's gaze, steady and affirming, and it bolstered her courage, but the CEO's glare cut through the warmth. "This isn't a democracy," he responded, his tone dismissive. "It's a business, and I expect results driven by those who know what they're doing." Something inside Lena snapped. "We know what we're doing. Look around you," she exclaimed, motioning to them all. "This team is passionate, capable, and ready for change." As her words echoed loudly, she spotted Carl in the back, his expression calm but his eyes lit with understanding. He was a symbol of all those whose voices felt silenced, completely overlooked despite their worth. "Carl, please share what you see," Lena invited, her desperation slipping away as she opened the floor to the janitor. "You've been part of this place longer than anyone. What wisdom can you lend?" Carl cleared his throat, and the room quieted. "I may sweep the floors," he said, his voice gentle but steady, "but I've learned something valuable here: listen to your people. When they feel heard, they bring life back into work. That's what gives a company heart." A murmur of agreement pulsed through the crowd. Lena felt energy surging, unity blossoming. For the first time, they were daring to believe in one another, to visualize a future growing out of collaboration and respect. Lena stood taller, sensing the shift in the room. They were beginning to find their collective strength. "What if we approach our work differently?" she asked, eyes wide with possibility. "What if we lead not just with metrics, but with creativity?" As chairs shifted and whispers of encouragement grew, shock rippled through the CEO's expression. Lena felt alive with purpose, knowing they were on the brink of something transformative. But what looming challenge would they face if they dared to break free from complacency? What hidden threats lingered behind the surface of their newfound unity? With anticipation electrifying the air, the next move awaited them. Would they step forward as one? The air was thick with anticipation, a strange blend of excitement and anxiety. Lena noticed how the energy in the room buzzed like static electricity, as hope crackled at the edges of their expressions. They were no longer simply employees, they were embarking on a shared journey. A sense of unity had blossomed, rendering the boss's belittling remarks almost irrelevant. But Lena knew they had to confront the elephant in the room: the CEO's icy wall of authority. His scorn lingered like a storm cloud, threatening to rain on their budding resolve. "Look," Lena began, her voice steady but firm, "we need to set the tone for what we want. Sure, the numbers matter, but we can't be robots chasing spreadsheets. We're more than that, right?" A ripple went through the crowd. She saw Sherry's mouth curl into a small smile. Tony, emboldened, nodded vigorously, and even some of the doubtful faces shifted from skepticism to cautious belief. "Let us brainstorm," she continued. "What's one change, big or small, that could make this place feel more alive?" Hands began shooting up, ideas came streaming forth. "How about a weekly check-in where we can share our thoughts?" suggested Sherry, her voice stronger now. Lena could barely contain her excitement. "Yes. And maybe a creativity workshop to explore our passions. This is about giving everyone a voice." "Or a team mural," Tony added, face lighting up with enthusiasm. "A way to visually express our journey." Ideas spilled out like a flood, each one sparking new thoughts and laughter that filled the once stifling air. The CEO stood back, arms folded, brow furrowing as the tide of change swelled around him. But just as their momentum crescendoed, he interrupted, "Enough. You're wasting your time. These whims won't pay the bills." The comment hit hard, like a bucket of cold water splashed over their shared warmth. Silence ensued, heavy and palpable. Faces turned to Lena, seeking reassurance. "Let us not forget what Carl said," she said, her voice gaining confidence. "This place thrives on our contributions. It's not just about the bottom line, it's about all of us, bringing our best selves to work." The silence morphed into murmurs of agreement. Lena's heart raced. They needed a leader, a voice, and she could feel them rallying behind her. You might think the spirit of our team can be quashed, she challenged the CEO, but you're wrong. Listen carefully. We want to be pushed down. This is the start of something special. We're here to turn this company into something vibrant. Together. The CEO frowned, scratched his jawline, and waves of uncertainty flickered over his face. His grip on control slipped just a little as he surveyed their rallying spirits. Lena's spirit soared, they were awakening a force he likely never anticipated, and it felt electric, but then, as the meeting drew closer to its end, a chilling realization struck her: the CEO's pushback wasn't just verbal. They would have to brace for a fight outside that room. As she gathered her thoughts, she recalled her concerns, murmuring to herself, what will it take to transform dreams into reality? With resolve brimming inside her, she knew one thing: this was just the beginning. Would their dedicated efforts withstand the scrutiny to come? Would the winds shift in their favor, or was there more beneath the surface that they hadn't yet seen? The sun glowed softly through the conference room windows, casting a warm light over the now eager faces of Lena's colleagues. They had come together in extraordinary unity, fostering an atmosphere rich with potential. Yet, lurking beneath the excitement, a tension pulsed like a heartbeat. The CEO's lingering skepticism hung in the air, an unwelcome reminder of the battles they would face. Lena felt the weight of the room shift, a tide carrying them toward belief and empowerment. This is it. She thought, her heart pounding with anticipation and trepidation. But it's not over yet. With a newfound resolve, she took a deep breath, feeling the warmth envelop her. But let us not stop here. It's time to take our ideas forward. Let us present this plan to the higher-ups and make them see our vision. As her words flowed, sparks ignited in the eyes of her colleagues, hope expanding among them like a wildfire. You're right. Someone shouted from the back, and Lena looked to see Tony rising with fervor. This isn't just a proposal, it's a movement. With every voice that joined, Lena felt a deep well of confidence pouring out. Ideas bounced around like popcorn workshops, team-building events, collaborative boards filled with creativity. Each suggestion reinforced their unity, laughter echoing in the room, but as Lena reached for the whiteboard, ready to draft the blueprint for change, the door swung open with a bang. The CEO strode in, a stern expression clouding his face, like storm clouds rolling in over a clear sky. What is the meaning of this? He boomed, cutting through the laughter, shattering the bubble of excitement. Lena squared her shoulders, her heart clenching but standing tall. We're creating a new path, one that values every contribution, she stated, her voice steady despite herself. He rolled his eyes in disdain. A team mural and a creativity workshop will not save this company. You think these whimsical ideas will rally the business? The laughter faded, replaced with uncertainty. Lena felt a knot tighten in her stomach as murmurs of doubt began to swirl. She desperately sought George's supportive gaze among the crowd, willing him to nod, to share his belief in them. People like being listened to, they thrive when they're valued. She exclaimed, but doubt dripped from the CEO's every word. I see a bunch of underlings just waiting to make excuses, he snapped, jabbing his finger toward the room. No. Lena felt the words explode forth. We have dreams. We want to make this place better, not just for profits but for people. Our ideas matter. We want to believe in our work. Eyes shifted, embers of courage igniting once more. A ripple of agreement washed across the room, heads nodded as encouragement blossomed among her colleagues like flowers reaching for the sun. Can't you see? Barry called out, standing beside her. We're not naive. We know what it takes to make this successful. But what is success without a team that believes in it? The CEO's brow furrowed, and for the first time, uncertainty flickered across his features. Lena didn't relent. We are presenting a vision encouraged and supported by this team, and it's worth investing in. We won't apologize for wanting a workplace where people matter. In that moment, Lena could practically see the light bulbs going off around her. You all did it. She marveled internally, heart racing with collective strength. They were pushing back together, every voice crystallizing into a solid wave. "All right," the CEO relented reluctantly, a hint of weariness in his eyes, "show me what you've got. Present your ideas, but know this: if it doesn't meet my standards, we'll reconsider the foundation you've built here." But as Lena caught the eyes of her colleagues, she saw the resolve kindling in them, mirroring her potential. They were ready to forge ahead, emboldened by solidarity and an unwavering commitment to one another. Days turned into weeks as they brainstormed, compiled, and transformed their ideas into a tangible presentation, a diverse tapestry of hopes and strategies. As they stood before the CEO, hand in hand with George and Barry ready to speak their minds, Lena felt a surge of defiance. They were not mere employees, they were a vibrant mosaic of ambitions, a force to be reckoned with. As they detailed their plans, Lena spoke with conviction, her heart racing at the chance to embrace her transformation openly. The CEO listened, a hesitant expression softening his granite features as he witnessed the sheer passion emanating from the team. And when the applause erupted at the conclusion of their presentation, Lena felt a thrill run through her heart, the mockery of the past fading away. In the days following, the company adopted a new initiative, championing a culture of collaboration and creativity, cementing a foundation where every opinion was valued. Lena found herself uplifted, no longer fearing the judgment of her colleagues or the constraints of perfection. She had changed. The sun poured into the office like a blessing, illuminating every moment of laughter that filled the space. As Lena looked around at her team, their eyes sparkling with possibility, she felt joy welling in her heart. "Together we will succeed," she thought, every challenge ahead only igniting their spirits further. As she walked out of the conference room, she noticed George standing by the doorway, a proud smile plastered on his face. "You did it," he said. "No," she replied, beaming with gratitude. "We did it." Lena knew this was just the beginning of their journey, but together, they were unstoppable. "Now, my friends, before you go on with your day, I need you to take a moment. You need to subscribe to this channel right now to not miss the next exclusive stories that will inspire you. If you love what you see, leave a like now to help feed the algorithm that keeps our community growing. Comment below and share your feelings about this transformation, it matters. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this change. Your support means everything. Let's inspire the world together.